Moscow is divided into, inside the garden ring, which is pretty much the city center. Most businesses are inside the garden ring, and that's where it would be a great area, for example, for married couples, for individuals, for people without children, or younger children maybe, if they had younger children who weren't in school yet. That would be a great area for them to live. Everything's right there. You have shopping, you have entertainment, you have restaurants, everything's in the center. You're right inside the garden ring. If you're taking the metro, all of the metro stops are there and very, very convenient. Outside the garden ring, if you go to the east or the southeast, in the east there's one international school, and in the southeast and the south there's not really very much of an expat community. The expat community is more to the west, the northwest, where the compounds are, the north somewhat, and to the southwest somewhat. And that's because of the international schools, and they locate themselves around those campuses. And so, for example, you can find a lot of very nice apartments, but they just might not be in the expat areas. And most expat areas do want to localize themselves in those places where they know the other expats are living. The process basically begins when we find out the assignee's general needs and wants, their family, who's coming, when they're coming, and also especially if they have children who will be in school, because nobody wants their children to actually have to commute to school. Or it's focused around the office, because nobody wants to have to sit in Moscow traffic for 2 hours a day, which is very possible, unfortunately. And once we find this information out, we go to the realtors and we provide them with this basic information as well as the budget that they're looking to spend, and come up with a general list of properties that we screen prior to presenting them to the assignee who will be coming on the home search itself. And usually at most home searches you have the assignee themselves, you have the relo consultant who's helping out the assignee and working on behalf of the assignee, possibly 2, maybe even 3 brokers who are standing there to show the property, as well as the landlords, because the landlord doesn't give keys to show the properties to any of the agents. And then as a big group, in most cases, you go visit properties and you review what's there and look at the properties, see what might work, what might not work, and eventually, if all goes well, you find a property that you like and you start negotiations. During the property viewings and negotiations, nothing is final until the lease is signed, unfortunately, and even in some cases until the actual handover has happened and money has been received. And usually the payment is a big issue. So in a lot of cases, payments are in rubles. Rubles are not transferable from abroad. It's not a convertible currency, which means that companies really need to be aware of this and confirm how they will be making their payments. I think during the screening process, we also make sure that we talk to the realtors who have contact with the landlords themselves, and they find out that the landlord understands that this property must be a registered lease, that the assignee has to have a lease that they can give to the immigration department, so they will be legally registered at the property, which is part of the full immigration process. I think that now, because of this, landlords realize that in order to get the better tenants and in order to get the international companies to trust them, it is in their best interest, and they are more willing to register the leases. Some small points in Moscow. Moscow is a very big city. The very vast majority of housing is in apartments. Even for families, almost all families live in apartments, so that has to be something that's very clearly stated so that all expectations are managed as well as possible from the beginning to the assignees. And that also, it's always advisable to use the internet to look at the properties, find out what you're interested in, talk again with your relo consultant and say, please contact this realtor because I'm interested in these things. And then the relo consultant can control the realtor, say, we have a budget of this much money inclusive, no more. And then that means that you won't get anything above your budget, and you'll only get properties that are in the proper areas and that fit the needs, truly fit the needs that you're looking for.